Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. This is the Hunt Harvest Health Podcast. I'm Dr. Hillary Lampers. If you haven't already, listen to episode number 19, which is our last episode with Dr. Jade Tita about testosterone and all things man. I highly encourage you to do that. If you're interested in learning more about your testosterone replacement therapy, and basically how your body is working as you age and helping your hormones, you can find Dr. Tita's program, The Testosterone Effect, on our website. Just go to huntharvesthealth.com/testosterone. There you can put in your email and you'll get all the information of where to buy that program. When you put your email in, if you don't get a response, please check your spam folder. Gmail is filtering out a lot of emails these days, so especially if you have a Gmail account, they may filter that response email back. So check your spam folder. If you're interested in learning more, if you do get that program, or you're interested in maybe finding out what your labs are, what your testosterone levels are, he talks about a number of different hormones and biomarkers that we do for labs to determine how your testosterone is doing. You can actually do that if you wanted to set up a consult with me, Dr. Hillary. You can on our website. I am doing long distance visits now. I do only have a certain number of visits per month that I take, but I'm offering that to the Hunt Harvest Health community. You can get more information about what we offer, prices, and what is included in a first-time medical consult by going to huntharvesthealth.com/medical consults. On today's episode number 20, Ryan and I sit down with Jesse and Amanda Wise. Jesse is the 2017 director for Train to Hunt. So we wanted to sit down and talk with him about the new format that's coming out with Train to Hunt, the new additions like the kids race. We talk about their love for hunting, their first hunts, Amanda's first hunt, their children hunting. And we just feel so fortunate to have them in our lives. They're some of the most genuine, authentic people that you'll meet. We love their children, and we have a great respect for what they've done with their faith and their family. If you have time, go ahead and give us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. That helps us to climb the charts so that our information can get out to all those people who may need it. Also, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram at huntharvesthealth.com. Thanks for being here. We couldn't do this without you. Enjoy.
Welcome to the Hunt Harvest Health Podcast. Today, we are lucky enough to be joined by Jesse and Amanda Wise. We actually came down and we're hanging out in their house. We got ourselves a good workout in, me and Mr. Jesse.
Yep.
Jesse and I, we met through Train to Hunt last year.
Yep.
I have not had the fortune of watching you compete, but
yeah, you did.
That's right, in Washington. That's right. Yep, I got to see that.
Yeah.
You were the director in my first race down in Nevada,
and Oregon,
and nationals. So we've gotten to know each other through Train to Hunt, and I kind of wanted to just talk to you guys a little bit about a lot of things. A little bit of Train to Hunt. Obviously, you're the director this year, and things have changed a little bit. Maybe we could kind of go into that.
Yeah.
Talk about how it's all evolved since from when you started to where it is today. But maybe give us a little background for guys that don't know who Jesse Wise is.
Yeah, man. I grew up in Salem, Oregon. I grew up in a hunting family. My dad hunted my whole life, so he never got to hunt. He grew up on the East Coast, and so when he came over to Oregon from Boston, he wanted to hunt. He wanted to own a gun and all that. His parents kind of were against guns and all that. So when he came over here, he hooked up with an uncle of his, and the rest is history. He became a hunting fool, and
I've seen some of the animals just coming into your house tonight. It was I got quite a few stories of some past hunts that your dad did, and man, it's impressive.
Yeah.
he's got quite a collection of antlers here. So I was pretty fortunate to hear all these stories from when he got into it and how he did it. But
and that was my entry into the world of hunting. And from a young age, I just remember my dad going away on these hunts and just waiting for him to come back. And
so how old were you? Like,
I was
when you first
anywhere from like when I could start walking and talking, 2-3 years old, to in my younger teen years too, because school and baseball and all that would be happening, and then my dad would go for a hunt, and I'd just be waiting for the door when he'd call and let us know he'd be home that night, and I'd be waiting there for him, and he'd show up at like 9:00 at night, and just I wouldn't let him go to bed until he told me the whole story of how he killed this animal, and so
it's interesting how that works. I was kind of the same way, and having children now, I've always wondered how certain people get that fire, right, and how certain kids don't develop that, and I always attribute that to same thing. I used to watch my dad go away for like bird hunting, and I'd never get to go. He wouldn't take me, so he'd come back, and like you said, he'd come back and he'd have all these stories, and I'm just sitting there, and you just get this burning desire to want to be able to do it.
Yep.
But it was smart on his part. He didn't take me, and so I wanted it so bad. So when I finally got to that point, where I could actually go with him and hang with him and actually carry a gun, it was like ingrained in me. I loved it, had to do it. So it sounds like you kind of had a similar situation.
Yeah, and I pretty much knew how to hunt just from listening to him, and I mean, my dad, he was always like really good especially with my older brother. I got a brother, Jason, who's 2 years older than me, and man, he would take me and Jason when, he would take us for like a week or so, or like a few days here and there, out into the woods, knowing that he wouldn't get anything because he had two little loud boys behind him, 6 and 8, but I just remember those times, and it was a different time, man. Like the gear and everything these days, it was all, old Army
everything
clothes.
was heavy.
Everything was heavy. My dad wasn't willing to buy us boots even, because he was like, well, you're just going to outgrow these boots that are way too expensive.
Sure.
And so I remember like we would get a pair of our tennis shoes, and he would just put a pair of socks on, a plastic bag over those, another pair of socks on, and then have us wear our tennis shoes.
Oh, that's perfect.
In the
waterproof.
Snow. We'd be waterproof, right? But man,
that was Gore-Tex back then.
My feet would freeze, man, but we'd be following my dad around the woods and stuff, and I just remember like he would shoot all these big bucks, and then when he took us hunting, he stopped shooting big bucks, and so he was kind of like sacrificing a lot.
That's just it, right? I mean, that's awesome that he took you guys, He knew that he probably wouldn't be as successful, but he wanted you guys to learn.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty important. I realize that now, thinking back, that was something that, my dad sacrificed for me is educating me, teaching me all these things, and he gave up a lot of his hunts and his woods time to show me and let me figure it out. So it's good you got that same opportunity, and he was able to do that with you.
Yep. And so that's kind of led me to I got 5 kids and 3 boys, 2 girls, and my oldest son Isaiah. I was thinking, oh man, I got to get my hunting in while they're young,
right.
Because I'll never kill anything, And then my dad was always a rifle hunter, he always would like laugh at me. And
what was his theory with a bow? I think
he's like, why would I throw sticks at animals, you know? And like I think he went bow hunting one time. His story was he got like 20 yards away from a deer and couldn't shoot it because it was standing behind a bush, And so he was
and with a rifle he could have shot right through that bush.
Yeah. And so he was done with a bow. And so I just had a passion for bow hunting. Well, one, because I got shot at when I was 15, so that kind of made me a little gun shy.
Well, let's hear that story.
Well, I was actually on this property, and some guy was trespassing, and we had just logged the the whole property, and I was walking down off the side hill here, and in this only group of trees on the side hill, and it was about, I'm guessing the cemetery is about 400 to 600 yards away, and I saw this guy leaning against the fence down there, and I kind of ducked behind a tree, and I had a red shirt on with orange gloves on, and I'm thinking, I'm on my own property anyways, I'm 15, and my dad and my sister were up on top here, and so I just was like, well, I'm not going to engage with some guy that's trespassing on our property, and so I just took the deer path that I was on, and there was about 10 feet of opening, and the minute I hit the opening, a shot went off, and right above my head.
Wow.
And I just started yelling and waving my hands, and the guy took off running towards his car. And so my dad came over the hill with my sister, and I met my dad, and my dad thought I had shot something. And I said, no, that guy just shot at me. And we could see him. We could see the road from the top of the property. And so we just watched what he did and where he went. And my dad kind of like, stay up here with your sister. I'm going to go find him. And I guess he went down there and found him, but
what was he shooting at? Did he think you were a deer?
He was shooting at movement, I guess. I didn't hear.
There's a lot of bright red deer around here.
Yeah.
Those autumn
Is that
colors.
An Oregon thing?
Yeah, I don't know. So after that, I was kind of a little gun shy, getting out. And I told my dad I wanted a bow, and so he bought me a bow for my birthday.
So you just wanted to kind of avoid the rifle season,
kind of, a little bit. It just made me gun shy, and so I just got my first bow, and man, I just remember that was a funny season because if it were me now, there were so many deer I could have killed, man. Yeah. I mean, so many deer, but my dad had no clue about bows. He just bought me this bow, and here's some arrows, and I was finger shooting, instinctive with a compound bow.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Yep. And so I snuck up on these 4 bucks like right during the start of the season, late August. They were all in velvet.
Is this right around here?
Yeah, this is right off the top of the hill here, and we have 115 acres up here above the vineyard. And anyways, I snuck up and broadside like 30 yards, and I draw back on him. He had no clue he was raking the tree, and about 10 feet behind his butt, and I'm like, okay, well, that didn't work out. I shot at a couple more.
Had you practiced much?
Yeah, I had, but I mean, it was like I was 15, and I was, I'd read stories about like Chuck Adams, and I read a lot of magazines, and that was the only thing I actually read was hunting magazines.
Right.
My dad would get all of the Eastmans and
Outdoor Life, Field and Stream,
North American Hunter, all that, and so I just consumed all of it. And so, that was my foray into bow hunting, and I was unsuccessful a lot. So.
Well, then that's how it's supposed to be, right? You're supposed to go through all those little bumps and bruises and misses and blown stocks and have all those mistakes.
Yeah, well, and so like fast forward though, and it's like, so you say that's how we grow into these better hunters, I guess. And then like I take my son for the first time, and so I know what to do. I know how to set a bow up. I know how to get him to practice. I know how to call out what he's doing wrong and what he needs to do, and you need to practice, blah, blah, blah. And then he shoots a 324 inch, bull elk, his first freaking animal.
I'm looking at that bull right now, and it's really impressive, and that's not how it's supposed to work.
No. So like everybody I talk to is like, you ruined him.
So tell me about that hunt, because I know you had done some hunting and up to that point and killed some things. And how did that first hunt go with Isaiah?
Yeah, well, we went out, and Isaiah is just always pretty positive when it comes to hunting, and he doesn't like going, like for me and for like my brother and stuff, we were like, I need to get out. I need to go. I need to, explore on my own. And Isaiah, he likes to be around, like right there with me. He likes to learn from me. And so that's kind of, I was kind of wanting to push him a little bit and, okay, you make a decision here, you make a decision there. And the area where we go to, we were into elk every day. And so there's a lot of good opportunity.
Which is exactly the perfect spot to take a young hunter, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, how old was
15?
He was 15.
Yeah, he was 15, and he had rifle hunted the year before for elk in the same area, and it was a cow tag, that he had, and we went down there, and all we saw was bulls. We saw one cow elk. She was like 1,000 yards away running, and the rest we saw were all like bulls.
That's too bad.
So like 15, 16 bulls.
Wow.
So it just didn't work out that year. But
and this is an area that you had hunted for several years.
Yeah. And so, and then we go in there and we had busted, I think it was like third or fourth day. We had busted a lot of elk out. We'd been within 60 yards of a nice 6x6 and a lot of rag horns and stuff. And, you could shoot cow or a bull in the unit that I hunt. And so we weren't going to be picky or anything. It's just easier to draw the bulls in during the rut. So, but we just kind of just did a Hail Mary and went lower than we usually do. And we were walking out into some open junipers and stuff, and I spotted elk like about 1,000 yards away, and so we made a game plan. My brother was with us, and he kind of hung back and called for us, and so we kind of swung around, and Isaiah and I were following, or we're following this kind of gully down and trying to play the wind right, because the wind was just swirling on us all the time. Every time you go into a little dip or a little draw, it would just switch and we'd blow elk out. And so we were just trying to take it really slow. Like it took us an hour and a half to go 500 yards, and because I just kept checking. I ran out of a wind checker, all in that one situation.
Yeah.
But anyways, we snuck into the herd. Long story short, we got within 50 yards of the first elk we could see, and it was just super thick. And so we're sneaking through these junipers and some aspens and stuff, and we get to this spot where these two fallen trees are, and we wouldn't be able to get a shot over the tree, so Isaiah would have had to stand up on the lowest one that had fallen, and so this bull works his way down. The first time we saw him, he was huge, because he was 30 yards away. He steps out 30 yards away and just starts raking this tree. He has no clue we're there. Wind's right in our face. And so Isaiah just sneaks up, stands on this tree, and he's just, for a 15-year-old kid to hold it together.
Yeah. That's tough.
Yeah. And so he's sitting there. He's got his Bear Truth series bow,
right, sure.
that he bought off of eBay for like $140 and stuff, and he's just waiting, and we literally sat there for 5 minutes, and we're waiting for this bull just to take a step, and he's just raking and licking the tree, and he wouldn't really bugle, he just grunt a little bit, and my brother just kept calling behind us about 600 yards. And the cows are filing behind him, and I just told Isaiah, when he takes a step, I'm just going to cow call. He'll stop and just put it right behind his shoulder and squeeze the trigger. And so he did. The minute he started moving, Isaiah drew back, and I cow called. He stopped, and Isaiah put it right behind his shoulder.
Just cool, calm, and collected.
Yep. And then right after that, the bull busted out, and then I heard him fall, and then Isaiah lost it. It was just like, he got the shakes and started crying, and I started crying. My son just shot his first elk and all that, I mean, it's like, and the funny thing is, Amanda could pipe in too, because like she gets on me because she's like, you didn't cry at our wedding, you didn't cry at any of our children's birth, but you cry when you kill an elk.
Right.
And
oh yeah, and
can I say when else you cry?
Sure.
Let's
Is
hear
that
it.
embarrassing on a podcast?
Let's hear
go
it.
for it.
If he kills an elk, or if he's watching a horse racing movie. As the horse,
movie.
like Secretariat or Seabiscuit, as soon as they round that last corner,
it gets to me.
all
I don't know
over.
what it is.
Is it just horses?
It's racing in general.
Okay.
Like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just like
anything with like big four-legged animals in it involved.
Yeah,
I guess.
apparently. Not marriage, not the birth of his children, but elk and horses. So,
Oh
Yeah.
Well, to watch your son, take his first shot at a bull elk and just like you
At
said,
an
he's
elk.
totally cool, calm, and
Yeah.
collected, and get that shot in.
Yeah, I mean, like at
that's
an elk.
the first thing
yeah,
he killed
Yeah.
with his bow. And
yeah. Second, he
Oh,
had,
that was the
he had
second,
killed
you're right.
he had killed a deer up here by himself.
Yeah.
that same year, right?
3 weeks before that.
Yeah.
So I mean, he's
like you said, 15 years old, and there's grown men that you get buck fever, right? It's a thing.
oh yeah,
Trying to keep it together and get that first shot, and
Yep.
and that was his first one with a bow. That's pretty incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, he wrote a neat article or story about that too, and he
Yeah.
tells it really well. But I mean, he had been dreaming of that moment since he was probably 3,
Mhm.
so
Wow.
it was pretty cool to.
Yeah.
So did he kind of go through the same thing you did? I mean, he's probably watching you come back from trips. You had your stories, and
Oh yeah.
I've heard some of your stories. They're awesome stories. I can only imagine him just sitting there listening to these things and
yeah.
probably drooling, just waiting for that day to get out there and actually go with you, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny too because like Amanda like hears them all the time, and she's probably pretty tired of hearing them all the time because I'll retell them all the time.
Is that true, Amanda?
Well,
Come on, be honest.
I mean, I've heard them for about 20 years, same ones, and so I tend to tune out just because you hear the ending of a story so well that you kind of tend to just multitask during certain
Yeah.
stories, but
Yeah.
not true for a lot of you guys. You could chew on the same story for a long time. I think that's really cool, but yeah.
So let's hear your story, Amanda.
Uh-oh.
Let's talk about how Jesse showed me a buck that you killed.
Oh, yeah.
Was that your first one?
Oh, yeah.
You took that with a bow.
No.
Nope,
No,
that
that
was
was that
that.
a
That
rifle?
was
With
a
a
rifle.
rifle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was when I was pregnant with Micaiah. So that was my first. Yeah, that was my first hunt. And,
So how'd that go?
It was good, actually. It was one of those things where, Jesse had really been wanting to get me out and hunting, and at the time we didn't live here, and we had 3 little kids, so it wasn't like on my radar to wake up, at the butt crack of dawn to like come out and hunt, because I was still in mom mode of little kids and just exhausted. So I was more interested in the evening hunts. And Jesse kept saying, come on, we got to get out there and do a morning hunt. And so anyway, I just wasn't very motivated and obviously hadn't spent much time hunting at that point. And anyway, this particular year, it was the last day of the season, and Jesse had just been hounding me. And finally I just said, fine, let's just go hunting and let's just go do this. And he was like it was like at noon, and he said, at noon, like, I wish you would have left this morning, we're not going to see anything at this time of night. And so anyway, I was like, well, let's just go and do this. So anyway, we came and we went hunting, and let's see, Jesse, you were rattling, weren't you?
Yeah, I was rattling and grunting.
Yeah, for me. And so anyway, this beautiful buck, I mean, it happened so fast. This beautiful buck appears at the top of the hill and
Kind of disappears for
Yeah.
a little while.
yeah. And anyway, but I had just, especially as my first time hunting, and I was just really concerned about having a bad experience or seeing an animal suffer. And I just thought, I don't want to ruin it for myself and not want to hunt again. So I just like, oh Lord, give me a good shot. Like, I just really wanted to have a
Now, had you
successful-
practiced quite a bit, like shooting
No.
like with the rifle much?
No,
or-
but I
You
have
shot.
shot here and there,
Yeah.
and I like to shoot. I just hadn't done it very often. But yeah. Anyway, he came and I hit him and he dropped. Hit right where I wanted.
Yeah,
It was a great shot.
Put it right in the neck, and he dropped him
He
in his
just
tracks.
piled
Yeah.
right there, and I think I didn't have much time to process, or to think like, how do I feel about this? Because Jesse reacted so quickly, and he was like shaking my shoulders and saying, "My wife just shot her first buck," like he just shaking me. So I didn't even have a chance to like process like how I felt about it.
Sure.
Yeah,
But,
I'm not like you, Ryan, where you're all calm and collective when you shoot things. I've heard you talk on the podcast about how you're like, just like, you know,
The work starts. Yeah.
yeah, you contemplate, you know, all that. I just, man, if it's something like that, if it's like a first time event or something like that, I just lose it.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you cry?
I don't think I cried.
Not on that
No,
one.
not on that one.
No, he didn't cry for me.
No.
I didn't cry either, but it was a good experience, and that was the first and last time I hunted with a gun, and
Yeah.
so yeah, and then I killed a doe
2 years,
2 years ago with my bow, and that was a harder one for me because Isaiah and I are similar. I think some people are like that where they want to go out and learn from somebody, and Jesse's tends to like just go out and do it yourself, and he likes to kind of do that too. But because it's taking the life of because it's taking the life of an animal, I just felt like I really wanted to be alongside someone. So it was a little bit trickier in the sense that morning when I went hunting, Jesse wasn't quite ready to get up, and so I went out and I went hunting myself, and I took a doe. It was a young doe, and it was hard. I definitely cried because there were just some things about it that I hadn't expected, and so I had wished that Jesse was at my side to kind of walk me through all of those things.
Right.
I got pretty emotional. It sounded a lot, even just the sound. It sounded different hitting flesh than a target, just things like that were just kind of a new experience. And and I was able, I could hear her in the distance, which bothered me too. And so I really wanted to find her and make sure she was dead, or that I could kill her quickly and that she wasn't suffering. So that was, for me, that was just a hard, I mean, sure, people have that experience and it's just part of it too, but It was just a brand new experience. And I was kind of on my own. I kind of ran back and had Jesse get up to come help me track her. But I'm glad I did it. I think I decided that day, like, I think I'd rather just shoot a buck. I don't know why it makes a difference, or especially not a doe that was so young, or I don't know. But it was good, and it fed my family, and that's what got me through it. Was I saw my kids all came running, when we were bringing her up, and it was a good feeling knowing that this was going to feed my kids, and it's just part of it, So, but just being my first time, there were just those things that I kind of had to walk through that I wasn't expecting.
Now, were you happy that you went out and actually did it yourself, or do you actually wish Jesse would have been there that day?
Did you get more out of it? I think it was both and. For me, it was like I said, I wanted him to see me with my bow hunting for the first time, because he's the one that got me started on that. So I felt like it would have just been neat to have shared that with him. But there was also just the satisfaction of knowing that I got up and did it by myself.
Sure.
And that I could. And just to show myself that was possible. So I think it, both and, but I don't have any regrets about it at this point or anything like that. It was just, those first that kind of caught me off guard. But
sure, that's great. Yeah, and how many years ago was that? 2 years ago.
Yeah. Not this last season, but the one before. So this year I didn't do any. I did get a tag, but I just wasn't ready to go out, and we had a very strange season this year. Yeah. My little sister passed away unexpectedly in September, so I wasn't really in the mode of. I didn't really have anything on my mind. It's been a weird few months, but and I don't know. I was recovering from an accident from a year ago when I got rear-ended, so I hardly pulled my bow back out all this summer, and so I really was feeling, especially after that experience, I was feeling like I did not want to go out.
You just weren't ready for it.
No, I didn't want to take a chance of just wounding something. I don't feel like I was in that place, but hopefully next year. And I did pick up my bow for Isaiah's birthday. We went and shot our bows, and it felt good to shoot. So I was glad to see that I still liked it. It's just, different seasons, I guess, for different things. So
for sure. Yeah, that's great. I mean, you guys have both competed, and I don't remember when did you pick up your bow for the first time? Because it was right before you started doing train to hunt, wasn't it?
Yeah. Would it have been 2013? Because when
14.
was the Blackfoot? Well, what year?
It was 13, 2013.
Yeah.
About 2 weeks before her event.
When was the first Nationals event? Was that
2014 was Nationals.
Oh, yeah. So 2013. So, yeah.
And you picked it up just quickly, it sounds like.
Yeah, picked it up or grabbed it as Jesse handed it over to me instead.
Picked it up versus like forced to hold it, maybe a little bit. But
so you just kind of gave her a bow and said,
yeah, it was kind of like, hey, babe, what do you think about like doing train to hunt? And she's like, well, I might. And I'm like, here's your bow.
Well,
that's all it took.
Well, I think it was before Train to Hunt that
crack in the door.
We had. Yeah, it was not very long before, because I only decided to do Train to Hunt 2 weeks before that event.
Yeah.
And so I think I had my bow for a couple months before that, but I hadn't shot it very much, and I hadn't wanted a compound bow. I was really wanting a recurve at that point, because I just had this theory of I want to start with what's more complicated then work just so I could understand archery a little bit better. But Jesse was
no, I did buy you a recurve.
He did, but it's like a couple months later that the compound came along, and so
because there was no way she would have been able to compete with the recurve. So
this sounds so similar to our experience, because we've been doing the train to hunt, or I've been doing the train to hunts, and my wife, who's sitting right next to me, she kind of had the same thing. She saw what we were doing. She saw the excitement we get out of it and these challenges. And this last year, she said, I kind of want to start shooting a bow. And of course, like you, Amanda, she wants to start out with like the hardest thing. Everybody else is shooting compounds. I want to shoot a recurve. That just looks like more of a challenge.
Yeah.
And, why don't you just start off with an atlatl?
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. So that's where she's at right now. She's flinging arrows with the recurve and doing really well at it. Right.
I don't shoot enough. I don't practice enough. That's my big problem. Ryan's really good every night. He goes out and shoots, and I just have stuff comes up, or I don't think about it. It's not on my radar. Let's put it that way. I haven't been doing it long enough to be like, oh, let me go outside and shoot my bow. I look out my kitchen window and see a target right in front of my face every single day. So it really should be a sign that I should go shoot, but it's not really on my radar to do that. And I realize that I need to do that in order to compete. Ryan's like, yeah, you can't outrun your shooting. So if you're going to do this, you better start shooting. The physical stuff doesn't bother me too much, because I could push through that if I had to. But I just know that I need to practice shooting more. Yeah, and maybe if I do the recurve, I could win anyways and not have to compete against
be in your own category.
But no, then Jesse said that to me the other day, and I thought, no, I kind of want to compete with somebody. I don't want to just go out there by myself, and that doesn't push me. It might push me if I know everybody's at the finish line waiting for me to show up.
Yeah.
But if I had one person I was competing with, I would be pushing myself more to, there's a bit more adrenaline involved. It pushes you through, I think.
So shout out to any ladies out there that shoot a traditional bow and want to come compete and train to hunt. You can join Hillary in a category.
Here's my idea.
And you can't shoot.
I would challenge Amanda to step back in the ring and maybe take up another train to hunt, because she killed it before. And maybe you two could get your competitive juices flowing again and compete against each other.
Yeah.
What's that?
What was that?
Is it no age in traditional? Or do they have age categories?
It's just trad.
Yeah.
So
it's however you want to do it.
Yeah. And then the weight is just based on your age.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That would be fun to watch, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I could get my wife into it, and
I don't know, man. Amanda
dust that bow off, and
Amanda is a different beast when it all together comes to competition. You hear 3, 2, 1, go, and she becomes a different person.
I've heard that. No. I've heard that.
I'd like
to see it.
Is interesting though about that I learned kind of the hard way is I've learned how important that adrenaline is before a race. To keep you going. And when we were competing, that's what I hated, was just the anxiety that came with before a competition. It just consumed me. And I didn't like that as a mom, because I felt like my thoughts were always like, as I was preparing, it was just so consuming. And then right before or the weekend of the competition, man, my stomach, just that feeling of like, oh, I just get so amped up and sick that I just hated it. And so on our, at the last nationals, I was so focused on keeping myself in this place where I was not going to get amped up or like stressed out or have anxiety. and somehow managed to keep myself really calm. But then when 3, 2, 1, go, when it was time, I was on my heels. Like I had to like force myself to like go, because I was like, I just felt so relaxed. So I learned the hard way, like, okay, I guess you need to leave that adrenaline alone when you're competing and just kind of let it do its thing, as uncomfortable as it is. I mean, at least in my case, it didn't work to get myself.
Well, I would love to know how you calmed your nerves, because I could not calm my nerves. Nationals this year, I couldn't get calmed at all. I mean, my stomach was in knots, and I'm usually not that kind of guy. I usually stay pretty calm for things.
Yeah.
This is one of those. That was one of those things. I was nervous. My guts hurt.
Yeah.
Just ready for that
like
competition.
That feeling. Yeah, just want to get over with.
No, and then it's all gone as soon as what you want. As soon as
I think
you
they make
off,
these special brownies these days.
Is that what it takes?
No, that's not what I was doing. But I learned, at least for me, that adrenaline is apparently the fuel that I need to do well, because I really felt like I was just sluggish without it. So
yeah,
but I don't care.
She's an amazing competitor, man. I'll just put it that way. That's how I was like, well, I'm never going to win on my own.
So you brought her in.
I brought her in.
You did, actually. You and Mark won the men's team in Tamarack.
We did. But, I mean, the majority of my train to hunt medals were with Amanda. So,
yeah, talking to you guys about train to hunt. I mean, Jesse, you're a director now, so you're heavily involved in it. And I think, everybody that I talk to with the train to hunt, they always have this story of like how it's totally changed them. Now, my wife, she has that story. She hasn't competed, but she's been to these events and she's gotten to meet all the people involved, and she's come away with this really, respect for all these people that are actually, going through it and suffering and doing all this. And that's gotten to where, she's semi-thinking about actually doing one of them. But everybody seems to have a story. Scott Carr's got a great story. It's changed people's lives. I mean, what was it about Train to Hunt that you took away from it when you started?
Well, I would say what got me into it, and then what took me away, I'll start with what got me into it, was my dad passed away, and he got in a really bad car wreck, but he ended up dying from a massive heart attack. And they did an autopsy and found out that he had extreme heart disease. And it was just this lifestyle of, even though he liked to hunt, he just stopped hunting after a while, just because physically he just wasn't able to just hike in the hills. He wasn't able to do what he wanted to do in his 30s and his early 40s. And so he ended up passing away from extreme heart disease. And my mom kind of was like seeing that progression, that I was on the same path. Not that I was like stagnant and watching television all the time, but I was eating wrong. It was like, if I didn't have a milkshake every day, it was a bad day, and I was like almost 200 pounds and, had a little bit of a beer belly on me without drinking beer, because I'm not a big beer guy. But it like my dad passed away, and then, all these like habits that I got into, I'm like sweets or,
sugar and
just like sugar and dieting and stuff. And I always like poo-pooed it, like anything green is bad, and vegetables sucked and all this stuff. And
well, it's easy to do. There's tastier foods out there.
Exactly. And so I really wasn't like interested in all that. I just followed my dad's footsteps that way. And so when he passed away, my mom really sat me down and was like, listen, you can't keep doing this. Like, you're going to kill yourself. And so, and not that it would have happened right away, but she kind of like, kicked my butt. And the funny thing was, or the irony of it was, my dad was, he wasn't healthy, didn't work out, nothing. And my mom was an aerobics instructor and Pilates and all this stuff for like 35 plus years, and she still does it. She still does Pilates and stuff at the courthouse here, and she's just super fit, as a 60, how old is she? 61, 62?
Sure.
and so that really, like, I knew I needed to do something. And so, that's when, like, Cameron Haynes came on the scene with Lift, Run, Shoot and all this stuff. And I saw that guy. And so I'm like, well, I'm just going to go run. And then I got a bike and started riding bike out of Corvallis and stuff. And then as I was reading an Eastman's Journal one time, I looked and there's this dude running with his shirt off and in through the woods with bow in hand. And I'm like, what is this? Train to Hunt? And so I looked it up, online, and I'm like, I got to do this, and it was the first year they were going to do like the 2-day event where it was the challenge course the first day and the 3D shoot the next day up at Bogus Basin in Boise. And, man, I signed up for it, and I just started training for it for like 3 months. Started running, riding, just doing all I could. And, I started dropping a little bit of weight, adding muscle, so it kind of balances out that way. And
so were you like 200 pounds right when you started this?
Yeah, around that.
Yeah.
Okay. Like 195. I'd fluctuate here and there, but, still pretty active, but not healthy at all. I mean, like even up until, I don't know, 2 years ago, I really didn't eat that well, just because your guys' podcast hadn't hit yet. But, I mean, just like this whole food thing that everybody has gotten into these days, and it's really helped a ton. And so, and then I started doing Train to Hunt, and I went to Bogus that first year, about 5-6 years ago now. Man, and I got my butt handed to me. And I thought, I'm like, all right, I've been training for this,
So you went into it thinking you were in great shape.
Pretty confident, right? And then, I ran against 2 guys that had trad bows, and they kicked my butt. And I had a compound. And I was like the last guy. And I was thinking, man, I just made a fool out of myself, But the thing that attracted me to Train to Hunt, man, Russ Meyer was at the first one, Mark Warnke.
Okay.
Those Sue Warnke, all these, Matt Davis was at the first one that I was at. So all these guys, and I didn't get like this cold shoulder or anything, man. I showed up like 5 to 7 minutes past the last guy that shows up right at the end of the course, and everybody's cheering for me and everybody's pushing me through. And I was like, wow, this is different. It's like, and so it was just, and then they talk to you like you weren't a loser, because we're not, right? You're out there, and that's what Train to Hunt is all about. And that's what attracted me to Kenton and attracted me to all of this whole community is, we're not out there. Yes, it's a competition and you can win stuff and blah, blah, blah. But in the end, if you're there to make yourself better, you get everybody's respect.
Yeah.
Because I know there's guys that show up that know that they're probably never going to win at a Train to Hunt event like me. I would have never, I mean, I could probably eventually if I trained hard enough and long enough, but I don't have enough time in the day to do that, to run against guys like Scott Carr or you, or Russ Meyer or something like that just have this like genetic physical ability, that is just off the charts. And it's all good, but it's when people show up and they love the community and they love talking to people about their hunting stories and just hanging out and just meeting new people, and it's unreal, man. It's unreal the different lifestyles and the different places where all these people come from, and we get to connect over training to respectfully harvest an animal.
Right. Yeah. It's weird. It's kind of hard to describe. I've told my story a million times how, you guys called me and I won an entry down to Nevada, and I went down, just showed up. I hadn't trained at all. And, it's just expecting, I like you, I had seen it in, wherever advertising for it. And I knew Ken, and I hadn't even signed up for one. And I knew he was a great guy back in the day when I'd met him, but I kind of wussed out and just never put my name on the pad and actually went for it.
Yeah.
Whereas you did. But it's hard to describe because you go down and it's like this infectious from the top type thing where Kenton's such a great guy. And it's, like you said, you go down there to challenge yourself. But even if you do come in dead last, everybody from top to bottom is cheering you on. Everybody is like patting you on the back.
Yep.
And so you walk away from it, whether you're first or you're last, coming away, you're driving home and you're thinking, this was awesome. This was one of the biggest accomplishments of my life, whether you win or you don't.
Yeah.
And it's just hard to explain what you get out of it. And, again, like you said, it's not like there's like a big money pot at the end of this. It's not for that. No. It's seeing if you can get through it. It's giving everything you absolutely can to get to that finish line and do your best.
Yeah.
Just what Ryan was talking about with the, his perception of it and not doing it and all that. And when he finally did it, and then I went to, which was when I went to Washington where I met you guys. Mm-hmm. When I went to train to hunt, I was like, God, these people are actually nice. They're family oriented. They all are healthy. That's another thing, right? Mm-hmm. Hunters aren't healthy. They just drink beer and they don't take care of themselves and they don't blah, blah, blah. They don't care about nutrition. And then I was just kind of blown away by the quality of the people. And for the first time, and then I went to nationals and we had so much fun at nationals. And really for the very first time, and I'm 44, where I thought to myself, wow, I might be interested in, I wouldn't say I'm at the place where I'm interested in killing an animal, but I'm at that place where I'm like, wow, I could see myself like even competing in this or doing this and not feeling like a redneck. Does that make sense? And that's a really hard place for someone like me to get to. It's like an intellectual who's really been married to a redneck for a long time going, you know what? The whole stereotype, it's just a stereotype. And even you can even live with somebody and totally stereotype them.
Yeah.
I always tell Ken every time I see him, I'm like, man, you changed my life.
He gets that a lot too.
I'm sure he gets it a ton.
I think it's so cool though, hearing the story of someone that hasn't yet competed, but has a life-changing story just by being in that environment and in that community. I feel like, there's probably a lot more of those stories too. And it's really powerful.
Yeah. I like that because, I picture like at nationals too, all of these different, and that's what I was talking about, all these different people coming from these different places in life. And like you show up and you're like so far removed from the hunter aspect. And that's the problem. And that's the problem that we're seeing in that podcast, like the Gritty Bowman and Hunt Talk with Randy Newberg and all these guys are keying into is the fact that we can't be these dumb rednecks anymore and bury our heads in our little hunting group and not address all the people out there that hold our hunting rights in their hand, in their hand to vote, right? And so we have to stop being, flippant and just being like, well, if they don't like it, they can take a hike. It's like, no, because we're going to lose those rights to go harvest, good, clean protein, and start doing it in a way. Cause like, I was like that, I would just hang around with hunting people and not talk to anybody outside of the hunting community and not talk to anybody. And it was like if somebody from your, circle would come in, they would be ostracized. Like you're just, stupid and closed-minded. And I was stupid and closed-minded in that, and I didn't learn how to, talk and to communicate and to share how the whole process happens. And that's been a great joy of mine, is just listening to guys like Randy Newberg and Steve Ranella and, Brian and Gertie Bowman and all these different things. And I get to know some of these guys, and it's like, wow, it's
you mentioned Brian, and he's gotten really good at it.
Yeah.
And Steve Ranella as well. They've kind of brought the other side. Folks like my wife, that just had no idea of what hunting's about, how it works, what we're actually doing, conservation aspect of it, all these different things. So, yeah, now it seems like, in our groups, through social media, through train to hunt events, through these challenges, people are actually kind of opening up their mind to, we got to know how to talk to people.
Yeah.
We can't just stay closed-minded. We can't just, like you mentioned, stay with our little hunting groups and just talk in a certain way.
Yeah.
If it's brownish down, all those little kind of key phrases that some people just don't think about. Mm-hmm. But in today's world, you nailed it on the head when you said they hold our privileges, our hunting privileges, with their votes, right? So people's minds can be changed. And I think it's been said over and over. There's 80%, 60%, whatever it is, of the folks don't really have a real yes or no to hunting. They're kind of in the middle, right? And when we show how it can benefit folks through not just, and I've talked about this before, not just the food aspect. That is a huge aspect, and it's really hard to argue with. How clean and how beneficial it is to folks who hunt that they get this meat. But there's all these other aspects of it as well. Where guys like Randy have gone into the conservation aspect and what our dollars do for animals. And it's super important. And Train to Hunt is just a kind of an arm of that, where it's bringing other folks into it, just like my wife, who are all of a sudden breaking out of this thing where they had a closed mind to what we did before. Yeah. And, I give all the props and credit in the world to Brian Call, because, man, he has completely changed. I was like you. I was so tired of arguing with people when they put you in this box as you're just a redneck hunter. You're just killing stuff to kill it. And I know I'm right. I know why I do it. I don't need to explain it to them. Yeah. But you do need to explain it to them. Because
you need to know your why.
Yeah. You got to explain it. You got to be able to, do that in a way that it's for all of us, right? Yeah. I mean, when we go up against somebody and we just kind of blow them off and say, this is why I hunt, take it or leave it. Well, that person now has such a negative idea of you and as hunters as a whole. You might not ever get that guy back. You might not ever get him to change his mind or be open to the idea. So, yeah, it is very important. And it's funny how this conversation has kind of spun into that with, how my wife her eyes were open to, kind of what we do and what us hunters are all about. Like I've said before, we're actually pretty cool.
Well, yeah. At least you are.
No. Hunting community.
Yeah. It is. It's a lot of good people, man.
Oh, for sure. Yep. Yeah. So, Amanda, the Train to Hunt part for you, I mean, you're not competing anymore, but you did it and you loved it, right?
I loved it when I was done. I mean, not that I was done. Once I was done, I was like, wow, that was the best time ever. Leading up to it, like I said, I'd get so.
Do you think you'll ever do it again? Or is that kind of just.
I don't know. I'm not opposed to it, doing it again. I think, like I said, this last year has been so weird that there's just not been a lot of fight in me. I've been a lot different. I'm not really sure who I am right now. And I don't know that I'm fully back. But like I said, this week I've been feeling a little bit like a cloud's lifted and a little bit more of that fighter mentality. I wrestled with my boys yesterday, so that was a big step in the direction of normal. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely not opposed to it. I think the first thing for me is just getting back and becoming friends with my bow again, spending time with my bow and just getting back into working out. I just started the last 2 weeks, just trying to get out and run and do some workouts and, just been a funky winter and I haven't had much motivation to do anything. And I think once I get to that point where I'm back in, when I'm in that regular workout, my body's starting to crave it, then I feel like there's so much that changes in what I'm wanting to do. But yeah, just now it's just been a strange season. So
see, I know Jesse's a director now, and I've seen you like doing so much, like helping out, like with the scoring and with the races and the challenges and all that.
yeah.
I just kind of figured, well, Jessie must need her help. And
You know,
she's running the show for real.
I do.
If I competed again, Callie Boschman and I, we've talked for a while. Like if I was to compete again, I would probably compete on women's team with Callie, and she puts that bug in my ear.
That's not a bad move. She is one tough lady.
She actually wanted to just trade up to a better partner.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Callie is pretty tough, man. I'd drag her down, man. I think she would crush me in so many ways. The pull-up department. And,
she is tough. So I have to first get my motivated back to be a good partner for Callie, but my motivation back. But yeah, I think that would be fun. But I don't know. Right now, I just feel really happy to help Jessie. Train to Hunt is so important to me and to us. And yeah, it's been life-changing individually for us and as a couple. And so right now I just feel happy to do my part if it's standing alongside Jessie and keeping scores for people and cheering people on. I love I like competing. It's such an incredible aspect because you're struggling with people and you just start gaining such a respect for each other, and you get done and there's just such it's just such a bonding experience when you're in when you're competing versus spectating or helping. But I feel like each of those places has their role and their importance. And so each one has been so good. I feel like spectators are such a huge piece. I think of Beth Carr and just people like that are just, they're familiar faces, especially for competitors that have done it more than once. And you see those same faces and they're cheering you on. And I don't know that they realize how much that can fuel you when you're feeling like you're out of gas, just having people there that love you and support you and just believe in you when you feel like you don't have anything left to give. So I have mad respect for spectators, and I like being on that end too, where I can, especially on the finish line, I like keeping score and just being there to yell people in on that last bit. So, and I like being able to help Jessie how I can and still be involved. Like, I feel like that's my way when I'm not in a competitive mode or not in that space, where I still want to keep my foot in the door and be a part of it and just watch people's lives be transformed, and just kind of I love also seeing people that are new to it just come and experience for the first time just all that Train to Hunt involves. But yeah, for me personally, when I was competing, it was just huge, and I've shared that I think before somewhere else about it helped in so many ways. I think that first time when we did Blackfoot, when that was just when I decided to try it that 2 weeks before, I was so intimidated, and the whole 12 hours there, I kept thinking, what was I thinking? And I was so sick, but Jessie had already paid my way, and I'm kind of cheap. So I was like, there's no way I'm going to let this money go to waste. So I just, made myself go in to do it. And, but that was a cool one, just only because I ended up getting second. I think I missed first by just seconds. And I was so shocked. Like they were
12 seconds.
12 seconds. Okay. I was so shocked when that, I was not expecting to place at all. And so when someone came and told me that my name was on the board in second, I was like, are you sure? Like I was so blown away. So that was really fun, like going and just expecting to I had no idea what to expect of myself. I certainly wasn't expecting that, but I feel like for me, that was just such a great, it was just good for my confidence, just for my own self to be like, I think you're more capable. I think more capable of things than I think that I am.
I think that's true. I think a lot of people going into their first one, they, like you, I was the same way. I thought, I'm just going to be bottom of the barrel here.
Yeah.
But I'm going to try it and do it and just, fight my way through it. And I think most people probably come away thinking they're going to do worse than they actually do. And they surprise themselves. Yeah. Right?
I think it's a good thing. I don't feel like there's a lot of things in life where you can surprise yourself.
Yeah. And
I think Train to Hunt offers that. And I think that's, even if you're coming in last place, I guarantee you're going to surprise yourself with what you accomplished when you're doing something like this, And then I think, that following year when we went to nationals, I think I shared about that. That was life-changing for me in so many ways because that year I really didn't want to compete. There were times, where I would, like, while I was competing, I remember in the Women's Open in Oregon that year, I was really struggling with my pack up this hill. And I remember thinking, wait, why am I doing this again? And yeah, it was just like this knowing of, like, I just needed to do it. I just needed to accomplish it for whatever purpose. I think it was just a greater purpose than I had in mind. In my mind, I want to say, this is just a competition. Like, why am I so worked up? Why am I so consumed by it? But then that led to nationals. We also competed, and we went to nationals in a couple. But at nationals, I had no idea what to expect. And I feel like that was so life-changing for me, just because there's so many, I mean, maybe people in general, but I think more specifically women. I can't speak for men, but we can just so struggle with the comparison issue and insecurities. And so it's really vulnerable to feel like you're showing up, especially I think for me being A-type, I tend to want to stick to the things, and probably a lot of people do, that they're good at. You want to feel good about what you do. And so it it exposes a lot of insecurity to do something that you don't feel like you're good at. And so that was really hard for me. I think one of my natural weaknesses that trying to has helped me push through is a fear of failure. I don't like to fail. No one really likes that, but I think I would try to avoid things where I would feel like a failure, and so, or feel like I didn't meet my own expectations. And so it really stirred up a lot of insecurities. And then especially showing up and seeing, that our competitors were one, CrossFit trainers, one couple, and another couple professional archers. And here I raised 5 kids, and I'm super proud of it, but I don't really know how it's going to help me in this competition, And
apparently it helped a lot.
Yeah.
But I feel like that was so huge for me. And so that was another surprise, getting onto that stand, that first place stand at nationals. I mean, I just came undone, and it wasn't just about that. That gold medal, it was awesome, but it signified so much more to me, of just like the things that I had to overcome, of insecurity and just fears, and being able to just not be held back by those things.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yeah, I don't know. Trying to hunt has just been big for me. I feel like those things are things that have moved me so much beyond a competition, that, I want to pack those things with me through life, of just not letting fear or insecurity hold me back or make me back down from things. I mean, if it's something that I'm not good at or not confident in, but just be willing to.
Yeah, stepping outside of your comfort zone, I think, is always good, right?
Yeah.
It's just going to help you grow with things. And
and that's what we want, we try to instill in our children. So, and that was huge for me too, because those competitions, one of the main things that got me through was knowing that my kids in general, but just being a mom, knowing that my girls were at that finish line, and I wanted to be an example to them. I wanted them to see me struggle and not give up, and I just feel like that's so important. That's something that I really want my kids. I don't want my kids to be afraid of struggles in life.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to feel like it's the end of the road when things get hard. I want them to learn to struggle well and to see what comes of it and the character that develops from it. And so I feel like that was one of my main motivations. I really wanted to make my girls proud and to be an example to them. And so that was really special, hearing, my kids' voices as I was running in, hollering for me, and it was super special. Yeah.
I bet. Wow. Yep. Yeah. And it's interesting, now, this year we're getting kids involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We got kids coming in, and on a side note, I got to compete against Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
Your son,
He
was one tough cookie, I gotta say, and that was a blast. What does he think of all this?
Oh man, he'd been chomping at the bit for years, ever since I started training, to do a train to hunt event. And since he turned 16 last year, him and his buddy Cody, they both were 16, and they both got to compete, and man, they were just super excited. And I actually loved it, because I knew he was going to get his butt handed to him on the meat pack. And
they did awesome, though.
They did great, but I knew, because, I would go train, I would go throw on weight all the time, and he'd be like, not today. Oh, not today. I'm not one. I used to be like, oh no, you're doing it. I'm not going to let you just skate by. But last year I was like, all right. And I wanted him to learn his lesson, like, oh, maybe I should have trained
a
little harder, because at that age, 16, you think you're invincible. you can just do whatever and get away with it, which there is a little bit of that. Like you can just, your metabolism, doesn't pack on this weight, so it's just like he could just go and go and go. But yeah, when it comes to strength though, when it comes to putting weight on your pack and going for distance, man,
Yeah.
it's not easy.
Yeah.
You got to train that. And
that was his toughest part.
Oh yeah,
by far. Yeah.
I think that was really special too for him because and Cody, it was cool for them to compete together. But that was one of the things that I had a harder time with that going into it, because I was wanting to give them some tips and or encourage them to go pick the brains of people that have competed before and just kind of glean advice. And that was something that I had to learn too, to kind of step back, because he didn't want any of it. He felt like he had it, and he had volunteered. And I mean, Isaiah has volunteered at all these events, and he's an incredible cheerleader for people. A lot of people just love Isaiah's encouragement. So I think he felt equipped, but it's quite different when you actually get a pack on. And so when he wasn't coming for quite a while, I started getting a little concerned and went to look for him, and he was really struggling. And, so I just got to kind of cheer him through. But I think that was so valuable for him to see. I feel like that's part of the deal, right? And part of him becoming more of a man is just realizing like how tough it is. And I think he gained a lot more respect for people. Sure. And I think he knows now.
I'm sure he learned, maybe I should have done the meat pack.
I think that's one of the things that he first said was like, man, I should have listened.
And that's worth $1 million right there. Just those kind of
that's
lessons.
Worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty cool that he's got to watch you guys compete and have success in it. And then he got to show up, and I got to watch him compete against him. And, he did really well. He did well in the shooting. He did well in the challenge part. But the meat pack event was so hard last year. It was 80 pounds, right?
Yep.
And he's 16 years old. He's not like he's a 200-pound guy. So
no.
But that's something that I think this year it's going to be pretty cool watching how this progresses with the kids, because they've got 3 divisions. My daughter's going to be in one of them. She's excited about it. Mm-hmm. She's in the youngest one. She's 8 and under. I think there's an 8 and under. 8 to 13 and 13 and up. Is that how it goes?
There's like an 8 to 12 and 13. I think there's like a... Golly, I can't remember what canon I came up with.
You guys have been talking a lot lately. It's probably all books.
It's going to iron out.
In the something end. Like that.
Yeah, but there's like a 13 to 15.
Yeah. I've seen the videos on how it's all set up, and I showed Paley, and actually, one of your boys was there doing all the burpees, and
Evan.
I was like, look at this kid here. Look at what you're going to be competing against. You better get after it. So go out and do some sprints and do some shooting and all that. And I think it's just super cool. And it's just starting at an early age and gets their little competitive juices flowing, and it's awesome. And plus, it gets me out there with her, and we get to like have this common goal, like we're training for something. And she, in fact, she was confused. Like we told her we're coming down here to Oregon this time. She's like, "Oh, we're going to train to hunt." All right. And she was so excited because she thought we were actually going to the train to hunt event, and she's super ready to do it.
That's I mean, how exciting! I mean, I think just this fitness and eating well are important. But so, I mean, to pass that on to your kids, and this is just another aspect, train to hunt, including a children's course. Just I think it's so important to get kids started early on just the importance of fitness and health, and instilling that love in them for
absolutely.
those things.
I mean, and like we always talk about, train to hunt, it's a family, right? We all kind of get it, and we're all, get super close just from shared suffering, I guess. But now it's actually the whole family. Like my whole family is going to be involved with the kids and you guys as well. So it's pretty cool. Now, my kids have not, or my daughter has not been able to hunt yet. You got 5 kids. Mm-hmm. Tell me how you see this going. I mean,
I potentially see a lot of meat in the freezer.
Yeah, is that it?
And it's potentially
high hopes.
I got high hopes, man, but it potentially is going to put me in bankruptcy or something like that, man, with the tag prices. But
buying freezers too.
Yeah. Well, I've got plenty of freezer space right now, so. But no, I've really wanted to, like, because Isaiah was was pretty easy. You know, he's been, shooting at things with his bow since he was 3.
Yeah.
You know, and just waiting, couldn't hardly wait for the day that he got to go hunt. And so he's been bit by the bug, man.
I mean, he's spoiled. He's got his 320 bull or whatever it is, his first bull, and it's a 320 bull. He's spoiled.
Yeah.
So how about the rest?
So, I got a 15-year-old daughter and a 13-year-old daughter. And then, and so with girls, it's just like I've been the same dad with them that I've been with Isaiah.
At least our girls. Can't speak for all girls.
Yeah, at least with our girls. And, but, they just, they're like, I'm like, hey, you want to hunt? And they're like, yeah, sure. But it's more like, I think it's more like they just want to do it because I think they think I want to do it.
Sure.
I want them to do it, and go hang with dad, and which is fine by me. I mean, if they want to just come hang with me, I'm good with it, And so that, I started them with the, online hunter's ed course and stuff, and they've kind of, piddled through it, and they haven't got it done yet. And, but then Ezra, he's my 11-year-old, and man, I just signed him up for the hunter's ed course, and he finished it, and he can't even hunt. Yeah, legally he can do the mentored youth program here in Oregon, but
and he's ready. He's been waiting to go bear hunting for
so long. And so I tried to draw, both Amanda and I tried to draw spring bear tags this year. We didn't get them, nor did we get the Southwest tags. So we're out for spring at least, and so we're still looking for fall bear, but which isn't easy, we found. And plus, I'm not a bear hunter, man. It's deer and elk for me, and that's it, So,
but I think that's part of the fun too, is kind of seeing how their hunting interests carrying them. Jesse's not hunted bear, but Ezra, that's been like his focus. Thing. That's what he wants to hunt first, and
that's what he wants to kill.
I think that's neat because naturally that's going to broaden Jesse's horizons as well, as he's taking these kids out to hunt what they're wanting to.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah, my daughter's, that's the first animal she wants to go for is a bear.
Really?
She wants to go for fall bear. And it's going to be a blast. I mean, in Washington, we have some really good bear hunts where it's just like the perfect scenario for children. You get out, the weather's generally good in August. You get up in these berry fields and it's nice out. You can park it by a lake and, camp there. And you usually see a lot of animals. It's a lot of action, right? And, you got plenty of time. These bears get in these berry patches and they're just like, they just sit there and they chow down. And it's just like the perfect scenario. And it's funny how, I've hunted deer, I've hunted elk, I've hunted these things. And that's what my daughter wants. That's what she talks about. The first animal she's going to get when she finally gets to go hunt with dad is to go chase that bear. So
that's cool. Funny. That's cool.
I don't know how it works out that way, but it did. So
cool. Yeah. And that's, so, and then Evan, of course, my youngest, he's 8. And, he's can't wait to go hunt either. So, and he turns 9 in May. So he'll be able to do the mentored youth program this year through Oregon. So, he'll be able to, shoot a rifle and hopefully we can get out there and get a hunt going. And, but, it's
going to be so different, for me, as well as probably you. I mean, you're so used to going up there by yourself or with a buddy.
Yeah.
And you can just go, right?
Yep.
Now, when you went out with Isaiah, I mean, the kid's in phenomenal shape. He probably had no problem keeping up with you. And not running you into the ground. I'm
like, dude, you're... and see, that's the other thing is like, man, I don't treat my kids like snowflakes, dude. If I don't care if they're 4 or, 15, man. If they can't keep up, it's like, all right, you're gone. It's like, but they will. It's funny because like most people don't push their kids hard enough, and this is just my opinion, my humble opinion.
Sure.
It's like people, everybody's like, oh, they fell down, and it's like, who cares? It's like they'll get back up. Quit babying them.
Yeah.
And I found out my kids are some tough suckers, man. We've taken them into places, and we've got we've got some funny stories about it. But man, like last year, for instance, we went up into a wilderness area here in Oregon, and we were hiking insanely steep stuff through some nasty blowdowns and burns and all that stuff. And we had our whole family with us, and my 7-year-old son at the time. Yeah, or no, he was 8 at that time, but our whole family, all of us, including the dog, we were elk hunting. I mean, kind of. As much
It was
as
our first experiment of elk hunting as a family. So Jesse was fully not really expecting to see elk, but he was really wanting to try to see, can we do this all together? Which was a really fun experience.
And I'm trying to grow because I've been pretty like you said, I'm a loner in that way. I want to go out. I want to actually get something. And so all expectations, I just kind of just had to wrap my mind around it and go all expectations are off. And I'm there to spend time with my family. I'm there to teach my family. And if for some chance we see an elk or we actually get an opportunity to kill an elk, awesome. Praise God. And so, it all just happened to where, all the trailheads were just stacked full of trucks. I mean, I've never seen that many trucks at a trailhead. And literally we pull up to the one the last day we were going out, and there was 20 trucks.
Wow.
And trailers and, all sorts of stuff.
So now your expectations are really down, right?
It's like somebody already, I'm like, okay, I got all these people that I'm taking in, and we're just hiking. And so I just called it just the family hike,
Sure.
We were bow hiking, and my son and myself, Isaiah and I had tags, and everybody else was just there to just have fun, and just hike. But we were bugling and we were getting responses. But I have an Earthmate app, and I was just looking on the map, and after I saw all those trucks, I'm like, well, we're not going here, So I looked for the next drainage to, find that there was no road next to. And so I just looked at it. I'm like, okay, we just parked on the road and we just took off, and then we had to hike up this nastiness and through some blowdowns.
So
it was so fun. I mean, we were just crawling through.
It's a challenge, just getting up there. And the kids, it was.
And we eventually just, plateaued off on this nice elk trail, and we just started following it. We got back a ways, probably about a mile back, started bugling and just started getting responses here and there. And
were you guys packing in to stay overnight?
No, we just had day packs on.
Yeah.
It was just a mile and a half into the wilderness.
That is something that we really want to do, but we are needing to slowly invest in, just proper quality equipment, and it just adds up for our size of family. But so we're hoping to get there.
So, when you try to take a family of 7 out there to backcountry hunt, we just want to make sure it's going to be warm enough. And So, anyway, so we ended up getting back there, and we actually got into them. We could smell them at first, and we're like, oh, this is awesome. And so those were really out because we were thinking there's so many people back here that we might be getting responses from people. And the cool part was I had literally no expectations. I actually handed my youngest son the bugle tube, and he just started bugling with his mouth, and he's really good. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, here, have him bugle. And I took off, and Isaiah took off, and we each had one of the girls with us, because I wanted them to experience it if a bull came in, and nothing happened that first setup. And so we just kept walking up the drainage, and eventually we got up about 4:30 in the evening, and I let a bugle rip, and man, this bull just blew up right below us, 300 yards below us, and everybody's eyes.
It was so cool watching the kids experience that for the first time. They were just loving.
Yeah, and it was cool. And elk hunting's so cool to do that with a whole family. I don't think I could have done that deer hunting, because making all that noise and all that. But elk hunting, I mean, my family sounds like a herd of elk. Right. Going through the trees. So as long as I'm here, have an elk call.
Maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah, passing out elk calls, And anyways, so we just get there, and it was the most amazing thing because I was the only one that had experienced what it's like to be in the presence of a bull bugling, and actually feel it.
Right.
You know, and you don't, if you've never had that experience, you don't know what I'm talking about.
Well, Isaiah and I had previously, but none of the other kids had.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah. And so just to get my whole family, all 7 of us there, and that bull rips off, man. And their eyes are big as dinner plates. Like, oh my goodness. Like they could feel it, you know? And then,
It's cool.
and then like my 2 youngest boys, they jump up on this log and they start breaking branches and stuff. And I didn't even tell them to.
They were just playing.
They were just playing. They were just being boys, right?
And I told Jess, I said, boys.
And Amanda's
be
like,
quiet.
boys. And I'm like, and she's like, I'm like, no, let
Let
him
'em
go.
do it. It's
They
Let
sound
him
perfect.
go.
like
It's perfect. Yeah, it was perfect, man. They start breaking branches, and then we hear him bugle again closer. And so
Wow.
Isaiah and I took off and, busted down the hill, which I kind of regret. I wish we would have just hung back and let him come to us. But I figure, they're making noise and bugling and stuff behind us, so we'll just get up ahead. And we ended up boogering him, or I ended up boogering him going over a big log, and I cow called and he stopped, and it happened to be perfect for Isaiah, and Isaiah just misjudged the yardage and hit him in the leg, and
Yeah.
just wasn't a lethal hit, and we followed him out, and,
But Jesse and I, we have
Gosh.
talked about that trip quite a bit, and since that was earlier September, and we've talked about that so much. That was probably one of our favorite memories to this day of just something that we've done as a family. It was really a special trip.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Gosh, I can't even. Just think about it. If everything would have went perfect and you would have actually got a bull down.
Yeah.
With that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm hoping there's a lot more of those times to come because I think the kids they all got that hunger for the excitement in them, and they loved scaling that mountain, and so I think that everybody's up for it now. This was, I think, probably the first time that we could do something like that without having someone complaining about being tired. I feel like they're all really good ages right now for that, and they're ready up for the adventure, which was
and
helpful.
Now that, and really that you said that, and I don't mean to correct you or anything, but to me, everything was perfect.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I don't need Isaiah killing 2 bulls in a row.
That's true. That could have been terrible.
Detrimental to everybody. He would have thought he was the best elk hunter ever.
Yeah.
Which
It's
who
bad
knows?
enough he's
I
got
know.
this monster
I
here. That's his first bull. It's probably the best it worked out the way it did.
But no, literally, it's those moments that that you struggle with. You don't hear those stories on the Sportsman's Channel,
No.
or the Outdoor Channel where they wound something, and it happens. Bow hunting, especially, I picked up a trad bow last year and was practicing. I shot 2 strings off of it before season, and man, it was just, I had a lot of opportunity, and I wounded an animal with it, and it was gut wrenching, but it happens, and that's the
anybody that says it doesn't, anybody that tries to cover up the fact that there's mishaps out there, there's blown opportunities. Not hunting isn't perfect, and that's why a lot of these shows they're hard to watch, right? Because they try to portray it as picture perfect. You get in a setup, bull comes running in, you shoot it, and it goes down in 50 yards. And, sure, that happens sometimes, but it's not the norm. No, absolutely.
Yeah, so it was good. It's just good to be out there and get out there. And I would encourage anybody, man, that has this daunting task of feeling like, oh man, how am I going to do this? It's just get outside, get your kids outside.
And I've thought about it. I'll be honest. I've thought about, because I've done this solo for so many years. I just got my way that I do it, right? And with deer hunting, like you said, it's being super quiet. It's not talking on ridges because your voice carries. And so I thought, how am I going to do this with the kids? But it's just going to change. We're just going to have to do things a little bit different. And success is going to go way down. But
but temporarily too, because they'll learn to be quiet and all those things as in that process. So.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting hearing your guys' story. And I loved hearing your story with Isaiah and how that all worked out. Hopefully that doesn't happen with my daughter. I want her to shoot like this little tiny spike or something. The first time
I know,
or a
like
cow or a
how I
doe or-
started, I shot a spike my first buck, then a spike fork and horn, then a
Yep.
fork and horn, then a
Yep.
fork by 3. I worked my way up.
Yep. That's how it works. They're supposed to work anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was cool too, just because, like Jesse said, that has been his time to go hunting and his time to check out, and not something that he's been super willing to share, understandably. And so that was cool to experience that. And for me, it's made me so glad to see that he loved it. Because even while we were there, I kept saying, I was worried. Are you sure that you're okay with this? Do you wish you were hunting on your own? Do you want me to stay back? And he was like, nope, this is what I came for. And he just fully
You're
had
a pretty
that
good dad, dude.
He is a really
I had to like shut that part, the hunter part of my brain off, and just go with like, hey, I'm here to spend time with my family.
That's awesome.
And it kind of like, it's weird. It kind of like came out and just meshed together, and it made me a lot more patient. Because I'm really not that patient when it comes to hunting. I mean, Amanda and I have like funny hunting story from the year prior about hunting together. And I was not patient, and we're not like we learned a lot of things about each other through this whole hunting train to hunt experience and about our marriage. But I'm not a very patient hunter when it comes to elk. Like if I see an elk, and you can ask Kenton about this too, because he experienced it last year.
I've heard this about you.
Is I'm gone. Like it's like, let's go. There's an elk 3 miles away, and I'm gonna go get it. And everybody's like, wait, why are you running? And it's like, because I need to get to the elk.
Literally running. Wild man running.
So for a guy like Kenton to say that, you must be crazy.
Yeah, we have our infamous whisper yelling fight while elk were watching us.
Yeah. You were fighting while elk were watching you.
Yeah,
but we were whisper
at the
fighting.
head of it. Yeah, we were whisper yelling, like silent yelling
work?
at each other.
It was interesting.
It's super comical now looking back. It was not funny at the time. But
was this like who's going to shoot the elk, or was this like you're doing things way off? You're doing things wrong.
This was like we had already had a bunch of blown stocks and a big, like the first ever experience with elk was hilarious because she had never seen an elk that close. And we get there and man, we just got right into the middle of this, little, not even a herd. It was like there was 3 bulls together, like a little 5-point rag, a 4-point rag, and a 7x7. Yeah, and the 7x7 was the closest one that I could see, and I just like my brain just went. And the mistake I made was like I was there to get her an elk. That was my goal, and the mistake that I made was I brought my bow with me.
But there was so much emotion involved in that weekend. One, because it was just a weekend trip, and it was my first time, and we had to do a lot to get to the elk, and so it was so short. I didn't have a lot of time to screw around in my mind, and so that was kind of my first learning too, of just realizing that there's different hunting styles, which I didn't even recognize at that point. And so I think that was a lot of it, was learning that I want to hunt differently than Jesse hunts. And so, but on the way there, I mean, he hunts, what he does works incredible for him. It's just harder to do when someone's in tow. Not everyone's going to run right behind you with their bow and arrow and keep up, but for me, I didn't know I was elk hunting until we were a few hours from this place, because we were traveling with some of our brothers that we've made friends with from Train to Hunt, with Nate McMurtry, Mark Gassner, and I thought we were going for them. And when on the way there, one of them said, Amanda, I can't wait to, get you into some elk and for you to go hunting. And I said, me to go hunting? And they were like, yeah, you're the priority on this hunt. Didn't Jesse tell you that? And I'm looking at Jesse, and Jesse's in the rearview mirror, like avoiding eye contact with me. And I was like, because I told Jesse, I don't want to hunt an elk until I've got, I said, I don't want to hunt an elk until I have a few deer under my belt. And so I was like, oh, really? No, I didn't realize I was hunting. So then there were just a lot of things that had happened. But then when we got there and, Mark set up the scope and they, saw some elk and he told me to take a peek, then I was like, oh, okay. My adrenaline started pumping a little bit and I thought, okay, this is going to be a blast. But there was just so much I didn't know or, about elk hunting, how emotional it was. And just to be so close to this amazing animal. One, like Jesse will tell you, was at first I was just super intimidated. It was huge. And he wanted me to just
Those are the 7 points.
Approach it. So at first I was like, what? I didn't want to get stampede. And it sounded like elephants running through this way.
Well, and all she's ever seen is like Primo's videos where the elk are running in
yes.
and
they
run
over their people.
Come up to the camera like a yard away or something like that. And so it's like that doesn't happen in real life.
Sure.
And
they've caught it on video. So
that's all on ranches. But anyways, I digress. But we're Oregon public land. You don't get these opportunities at these big boys very much, and we're sitting there. We just come out of this aspen grove and sagebrush in front of us, and then this bull's in this other aspen grove, and this other bull is to our left, and I'm just watching them, and I'm like, babe, just get in front of this bush. And she's like, no, I need to be behind the trees. And I'm like, no, you need to be in front of the trees.
It wasn't, and it was
and she's like, no, they're gonna run me over. It was just hilarious, man. And I kind of just had a chuckle at that moment.
So is this the whisper fight?
No, that was my very first encounter. That was our first day, my first encounter with an elk. But then after that, we were kind of getting into them a lot, seeing them a lot. So I was getting really excited at this point. Then I was and
super frustrated when the wind would change.
Yeah, so all of that where I'd be like, I'd feel like we were so close to an opportunity, of course, and then it would change or, they would get spooked or the wind would shift. And so that was my first experience of just having my emotions so involved in a hunt. I haven't experienced that yet. And I think that it was really amazing. And I'm sure that's really a normal thing for elk hunting. But for me, it was just my emotions I'd get so amped up, like it's here and then it would be gone. It happened so many times. And then just frustration as a couple and learning, that, I just really wasn't comfortable running with my bow through the sagebrush. I fell so many times just walking, tripping. So I was kind of clumsy out there at first, but yeah, I think so much of it was just that frustration. And Jesse doesn't hear very well. And so it didn't help that, if I was hearing something or seeing something and he was ahead of me, I wanted to let him know, we're passing by something and, he wouldn't hear me. And so I'd get frustrated because I didn't want to keep passing by. And he was frustrated with me because he wanted me on his heels. And so just some different things. And so, it just kind of accumulated to where there was this one kind of our last night there. And I was starting to feel the pressure, of course, because I knew we had to go home the next day. Well, Jesse, I knew he was going to come back a week later and stay there for 2 weeks. So, at one point, there was an elk. We had shot an elk, and there was kind of just this big gap in the trees. And so he was like, "Do you want the shot?" And I said, "Yeah." And so I was kind of getting ready and trying to decide, how I wanted to position. Well, he kind of gets in front of me, and he's getting ready to draw back. So I'm thinking. So then I'm frustrated. And so I said, is this my hunt or is this your hunt? I'm not really sure. Am I supposed to just shoot you or why are you standing there? I was just so frustrated and he was having such a hard time because he just really wanted to take that shot. I was taking too long for him or whatever. So,
well, yeah, she was like thinking it through and it was just like, and it's so natural for me to just, okay, I'm just going to draw back and kill this thing. It's right there. Yeah, it's going to take off. It sees us. We need to shoot it. It's like, hurry up. And it's like, it ended up taking off. And it's like, all right. And then that's when it
and then Jesse, he wants to move quick, shoot quick, which is cool. It works good for him. But when I'm there, it's not going to work really good for us to run up together. And so I was getting frustrated because, if they spook, Jesse likes that because he likes to chase them down. Like literally, that's what he does. That's how he kills elk. And I think it's super amazing and awesome, but it's just hard when you're following along. And so I'd rather just stalk and wait and get a shot rather than chase. I don't want to chase an elk. I don't feel like I'm going to be
it's not like it's not like I throw rocks at him to get him running and then go run after him.
But if he busts them, he just starts taking off after him. So I was getting frustrated because they would get I'd feel like we were getting close enough for a shot, and then they would bust, and he'd be like, "Let's go!" And I'd be like, "Oh!" So it was just this emotional thing that
it's not like they only run like 3 miles.
I know, right?
So anyway, at that last time, it was kind of a lot of this where, you know, I just felt like he wasn't hearing me. There was a part earlier in the day where I kept trying to get his attention and he couldn't hear, and I could see a bull down below. And so my adrenaline was pumping, and there was I just saw this beautiful rack moving down below, and I didn't want him to see us or smell us, but Jesse didn't see him, and he was just trucking along. So I'm, hollering, Jesse, 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 Jesse. And of course he doesn't hear anything. So I'm like, Jesse. I mean, I yelled at Jesse so much that trip, Jesse, Jesse, Jesse. And so at that point I picked up a rock to throw it at him because I thought there's no other way that I'm going to get his attention. So thankfully he turned around about that time and he saw me get ready to throw a rock, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
Throwing rocks at me?
I think it was like a Cain Abel moment here.
I was like, I'm trying to get your attention. There's a bull down there. And so anyway, so it just had kind of accumulated that day, and I was so annoyed with him, and he was so annoyed with me. And that night we were coming in, and I don't even remember the situation at this point when we had our whisper fight, but same thing. Oh, I know. We were coming in on some.
It was like the last light, and we saw this herd up above us, and Mark and Nate went around, and we went kind of up the bottom, and we busted this little 4-point rag out. He was probably 10 feet from me when I busted him, and he didn't see me; he just heard me. I was just cow calling, and I heard him bust out and stop, and I knew, like, over this berm, right? And this is like the whole time I'm like, just keep up with me, babe, just keep up with me. And he stopped on the other side of this berm, and I knew he'd be like 30 to 40 yards away, just perfect. And I look back, and she's like 40 yards behind me, and I'm like, oh. And so I kind of just peeked over the edge, and there he was, 40 yards broadside, just looking back like, what's going on? And I'm like, get in there already. And then I heard him just bust, and I was like, ah. And so that was, but there was more elk above us, more cows. And so we're like, all right, we got this, there's still more up there. They haven't busted or nothing. And so we just kept sneaking up. And so that's when the, fight started brewing. And so I kind of like heard her, she's like, I need to be in the lead and all this stuff. And so I'm like,
and at that point too, when we were heading up to those elk, Jesse was busting ahead, but he kept going. Like, I wanted to kind of like hide behind the bushes. I didn't want to be spotted, and he just wants to kind of beeline up to the bush to hide behind. So I'm kind of like trying to like be sneaky, and he's like keeps going past me. So I'm like, am I hunting or are you? I'm not really sure what the deal is. But then I could hear a cow to my left in these aspens. I just kept hearing her over and over. And Jesse couldn't hear her. He doesn't hear high-pitched things very well at all anyway. And so he couldn't hear her. And so here again, I'm going, Jesse, because one, I didn't know if she could see me. I could hear her, but I couldn't see her. And she was close. She sounded like she was only 30 or 40 yards in these trees. And so
that's kind of what it sounded like.
Yeah.
And
like my daughter.
Yeah.
Because it was a calf, actually.
And so I couldn't hear. I couldn't see, and so I'm trying to get Jesse's attention so he knows that there's something going on over here and he doesn't spook it. And I was just really confused, like just torn. Should I just go and pursue this on my own or follow him this way? And so I kept, again, Jesse, 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 Jesse. And he didn't hear me. And so then I'm paused because I don't know if, what I'm hearing in the trees is sitting there looking at me or not. So I'm kind of just froze. And I'm seeing the elk beyond Jesse, and I'm hearing the elk here, and I'm just thinking, okay, what do I do? Do I go this way or that way? And so I'm like, Jesse, Jesse, Jesse. And again, he's not hearing me. So he finally turns around and goes, what are you doing? Is that what you said?
No, like you just stopped at that moment.
Oh, I stopped and I was frustrated.
And she just starts crying.
I was so
because like all of this is just this emotional.
Oh, and that was also it, because just like an hour or so before that, I was trying to chase him through the woods. We were through aspens, and here he was again. He was running, and so I'm trying to keep up with him, and I have an arrow knocked, which isn't personally the way that I wouldn't want to do it, but I'm trying to run and not stab him. So I'm trying to stay back far enough, and also trying to watch my footing.
Didn't want to stab him?
I'm not saying I didn't want to, but I'm just saying I'm trying not to. And
this isn't prescription like how you hunt either, man. I'm not.
And so I'm trying not to trip. There's like all kinds of brush, and I'm trying to watch my footing and not lose sight of Jesse because I have no idea where I'm at. This is his hunting grounds. And so I'm running and I trip over this log and my arrow falls off my rest and stabs me in the back of the leg. And so I stop and I'm just fuming at this point. Like, it didn't hurt that bad, but it was enough to make me mad, where I told him, this is why I don't want to run like this. And so he turns around and is like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, what am I doing? I'm trying to keep up with you. I'm trying not to stab myself or you. And so so that happened just a couple hours before. So I'm at that point when Jesse saw me at this last right before dark, and he turns around and I'm standing there, and I just was finally, I just got so frustrated. I just started to cry quietly, and he turned around and he goes, "Why are you crying?"
Like, what are you doing? And there's an elk 80 yards above us.
Oh yeah,
like, kind of looking down, like, on the other side of these bushes, because we had bushes in front of us.
And so then at this point, I'm like trying to like tell him, I'm like, you just keep running me past all these elk, and you get my hopes up, and then they come down, and I keep trying to tell you that there's elk right here, and if you would just hear me when I keep saying, Jesse, Jesse, Jesse. And he was like, this is stupid. I don't even know why I brought you. And I was like, this is stupid. I didn't even ask for you to bring me. This was your stupid idea. So here we are, just like, how many yards apart are we?
Probably 15.
Yeah, and we're just like whisper yelling. Our arms are flailing in the and at this point, I'm seeing the elk behind Jesse just looking at us, and they're thinking, stupid hunters. I don't think we have anything to worry about.
What are these people doing?
Yeah, I don't even remember all that it went on. I'd have to. I don't know. I think I've blocked some of that out, but oh my gosh,
that's awesome.
we didn't kill anything.
And
that
I think,
night.
and she's like, no, the funny part was because, like, hunters, we got like if you see something, you're gonna be like,
oh, that's
silently,
what it was.
and she's
She
like,
doesn't know your
this
signs.
thing's over there, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, all you gotta do is this.
Yeah, you guys can't see, but Jesse's doing the whole, point to your eyes and then point to the thing. And I said, I would love to do this. And I copied him. And I said, but you can't. And I'm pointing to his ears. You can't hear a dang thing. So anyway, it was just.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was pretty dramatic. But
wow. See, so yeah, two totally different hunting styles.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think where Amanda would shine is in like the North Woods of Idaho.
Yeah.
Call those bulls in. She can be ready, cool, calm.
Yeah.
You're like a New Mexico, Arizona guy.
Yeah.
You're like chasing elk and seeing them
dude.
miles.
I like
away,
seeing them
going
miles
for 'em.
away and being like, okay, I can get to there
Mm-hmm.
and going for it.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's probably what, if me and my wife ever do a hunt together, that's probably how we're going to be. We're going to probably have some of those little whisper fights, I'm guessing, but we'll see, hopefully.
Well, that's fun. I think I learned, I like what Jesse does, and I think it was fun. I'd prefer not to do that with a bow in my hand. I'd rather just follow him with like a little camera or something and watch him do his thing and then do my hunting in a different way or something. But I mean, I had a great time with him. It was just I wasn't expecting that. There was a lot of just new things that happened that trip that kind of caught me off guard. But it's a good memory. And I think, again, we learned a lot from it. And we learned a lot. I mean, a lot of those things kind of just reflect areas in your marriage that you need to work on in general, listening to each other and tuning in. And
you guys are laughing about it now.
Yeah.
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 Well,
Well,
it matters.
until you leave.
Yeah. It's probably going to be
Just stirred up
more than
some
a whisper
repressed
fight.
memories. Whatever.
I might end up tripping down the stairs again.
Or getting stabbed by one of these random arrows.
Oh, we don't have stairs. That'll be tricky.
Oh, man. I'm going to go one by one, but I've got a couple questions for you guys. Amanda, first off, what is Jesse's biggest strength?
I'll get to it about each other on the spot.
Yep.
Oh, man. Jesse is, I don't know if I can say one. I'll just try to say a couple. He's very loyal. He is a super loyal friend, and he's very dedicated. If there's something Jesse's passionate about, he's relentless about it. And so I feel like those are the things that stand out to me, and his faith, and the way that he leads our family is just huge. So yeah, I think that's where so much of that loyalty and dedication comes, is something bigger than himself. But yeah, Jesse is super loyal, just super dedicated, super good at just, especially as a husband, he's so good at just unconditionally loving and seeing past all my junk. And I just feel like that takes a really unique person. I'm not as good at that. So.
She doesn't have a whole lot of junk to see past.
Oh wow! Oh wow! I'll set up a camera.
Okay, Jesse. What is
Amanda's
Amanda's
biggest strength? Man,
Hard to think of one.
strength.
I think there's so many. He's trying to pick out the best one.
It's just like perfection. No.
Oh wow! Please.
I don't know, man. I see this woman through, glasses that God has just given me this like filter or something, because the way she talks about herself to the way I see her is like two different people. But man,
yeah, I can verify that. I mean, I've heard you talk about her, and it's just, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, she is. I would say her biggest strength, though, is just her love for Jesus, man. I mean, just she absolutely just, our faith is everything to her, and it's a beautiful thing that I get to rest on, that she has a lot of tenacity when it comes to doing what's right, doing the right thing, and she does it all for God's glory and not for her own, so there's a giant humility piece in there that I get to learn from her, when I see her being selfless, like being a mom of 5 kids, homeschooling, and cooking and cleaning, and doing all that stuff for, Isaiah's 17 years old, and our youngest is 8, and she's just been doing it so long, and there's all these women out there that do that, and it's such a downplayed job. Like, it's harder than any job that I've ever had, that anybody ever has. Being a mother in that is so downplayed in our culture, and it's a travesty. And I think that her being a mom, I know I'm like butchering like one thing, but man, it's just watching her just give of herself so selflessly, right, for so many years. And I just think, and she doesn't really, it's not really like, she doesn't seek praise for it or anything, but it takes a genuine humility that she can only get from God to do that.
Can I just say really quick to any moms that are out there, because this is what women tend to do, is they hear, oh, this woman, she has 5 kids and she homeschools, and I think sometimes they think, I could never do that, or she must be so amazing. And can I just say that it is something that I do, but it's not, I don't do it perfectly, and I make a whole lot of mistakes in it. And so I don't want to give anyone the idea that I have this together and figured out. I'm just wrestling through life and learning myself. And this is just where I'm at, and God has you where you're at too. And we're just all learning together. So I don't want anyone to think by any means that I'm this, amazing.
Well, it shows through your kids. I mean, you guys have phenomenal kids. It's pretty incredible.
Thank you.
I've had opportunity to meet them. It's
like
great.
You got to spank them enough. And they get good.
Is that it?
Yeah, 5 o'clock. Just line them up.
There you go.
Whether they need it or not. Wednesday's spanking day.
Oh, that's good to know. You didn't hear that, Tana. All right. So I won't make you guys do each other on this one, but
on the weakness.
Your weakness. What's your weakness?
My weakness. My biggest weakness. I don't know, man. Babe, what's my weakness?
Again, there's so many.
I know. It's like,
which one do I start with?
Which one do I start with? I've never thought of myself as being weak. No.
I'll help you later when we're off.
Yeah. No. I would say probably my inability to maybe take criticism well. I don't like it when somebody tells me I'm doing something wrong, and And so just like that struggle that I have of being humble and listening, I think would be for myself, like not, I can fake it with the best of them, but internally, mentally, it's really difficult for me to be like,
To not take it to heart.
And and to not like look at somebody who's actually giving me good advice, but I just don't want to hear it.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And so that pride piece, so.
Yeah, for me, that's easy. I can think of a couple right off the top. One of my main weaknesses is that I get easily bored and restless. And so that, especially this year, has been a bit of a struggle. That can be hard when you're a stay-at-home mom and homeschooling. I have a kind of an adventurous heart and a bit of a free spirit. And so I get restless if I'm doing the same thing too long. And so that can just affect my attitude, and I have to really watch that and keep that in check. And also, one of my weaknesses is that I can be my greatest enemy, and just my need for accomplishment or to see something done or a little bit of perfection, which is really almost impossible to have in a home when you're raising 5 kids. And so I can wrestle that frustration or feeling like I want to get things accomplished. But I'm a quality timer, so my heart is to like give each of my kids and to pour into them, give each of them my time. So it's that constant battle of just not giving into the things I feel like need to get done that really don't matter, and to be able to set those things aside and have the wisdom to set those aside, to stop and listen when someone wants to talk and I'm tired and I want to go to bed, or I want to like get something done. And I think that also can go into the boredom and restless thing too. Is, I was telling Jesse a couple weeks ago, I think one of the things I realized is that, I've been doing this for a long time and I wouldn't trade it. And I love having my kids. I love the time I have with them. I get a little restless sometimes in teaching academics. I just want to go and like have fun with them and go do things, which isn't super responsible, but I need to be home and grounded. But I think that's one of the challenges of what moms do, is that you don't necessarily at the end of the day, clock out and say, wow, I accomplished what I needed to do today, or I feel like I finished this project. We're just kind of making deposits as moms, as parents, that you don't necessarily see that same day, or you don't see right away. And so that's kind of something I struggle with, is I just want to see like something accomplished or something, feel like I finished something. And so, yeah, I feel like that can be one of my weaknesses, is just getting so caught up in wanting to complete something that it can interfere with me just settling in and being able to tune in with people like I'm wanting to. So, yeah, those are a couple of them.
Okay, so last question: what are you guys most grateful for?
That's easy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jesus, man, what he did for us.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, that's why. It all leads to, that's why I hunt. That's why I fight for public lands. That's why I, want to be a good dad or a good husband. It's because of what Christ did for me, and the knowing that God created it all, knowing that God gave us this very moment in life to be here, to be talking to you guys. He orchestrates everything. He's got his hands in everything, and I would say that's probably for both Amanda and I. It's just
absolutely. There's nothing else I could say first of all than just and I know I might be weird on the podcast, but that's just that week, Jesse and I can't be asked that question and not say something about Jesus, because that's the whole purpose of our for our family, our lives, and my life right now would be so different. For me, God interjected at an incredible time where I was heading down a different track. And I sometimes think about the woman that I would be, where I was going. I know I definitely would probably be battling some addictions right now. And, I was heading to go make a living dancing, and I don't mean cha-cha. So I just was on a completely different path, kind of a self-destructive path, and just a lot of things from my life that at that time I was just really angry and bitter and ready to just maybe self-destruct a little. And there were just so many times in my life where I just know God interjected. And I think some people can have that mindset of thinking, well, sometimes when you have nothing left, of course, you're reaching for something. But that's not the case. This got to us. Our relationship with the Lord isn't just a notion or an idea. It's an actual experience where we've experienced God in our life in such an incredible and personal and intimate way that you can't deny his existence, and we can't deny what he's done in our lives. And so for us, our lives now are not our own. It's just a desire to just pour back out to him. And that for us, that is just loving people and loving our children. And so I'm super thankful for that. Of course, just my salvation, that God loves us despite what we've done, who we are, what we do, that he doesn't see us. He doesn't see us that way, thankfully, to the blood of Jesus, that we're clean and whole and we have the opportunity for a fresh start. And also just super thankful for family and community and friends, because especially I think just during this last season with my sister passing, you just gain a whole new perspective when you lose someone that was so close to you, and our families just come even closer, which I didn't really think was possible, but I just, and community that's come alongside us and walked through us during this journey. Grief is a really interesting process, and one that I wasn't quite prepared for, and I honestly don't know how to do, and I don't know that you can prepare for it. But family has been so huge. I can't say enough of how thankful I am for family and good friends and things like that. So anyway.
Well, man, we should probably end it here. It's getting pretty late. We've kind of invaded your house here. It's late.
We're used to it. It's good, man. I love it.
So happy you guys could get on here and share a couple stories and we could talk about this. And
thanks for having us.
Really glad to finally see where you guys live because, man, like I said, Jesse, you put me through a pretty killer train to hunt workout. But that was St. Patrick's Day, wasn't it? That we did that a couple days ago?
Patty's Day,
yeah, that was fun.
That was a good time.
Yeah, for sure.
A good time. I like working out with beasts like you, man. You push me.
No, you had me going. That was a tough one. But, cool. Yeah, man, really appreciate you guys sitting down and talking with Hill and I and letting us into your house. And got to hear all these cool stories and hear about the family and meet everybody. And it was pretty fun. So. Yeah,
and I want to just thank you on behalf of the hunting community, man, for what you guys are doing with the podcast and StHealthyHunter.com and stuff like that. And man, it's just helped out a lot. I've become, I keep trying to do dehydrated stuff and, in the kitchen and stuff, doing stuff like that. So, man,
I never thought I'd see that. That's crazy.
It's
well,
really
dude, I drank some of your kombucha the other day. Yeah. It was awesome. So, it's cool. I mean, I think, like Hill was mentioning before, I think Train to Hunt has kind of kicked our butts into wanting to get out more and help people and, show or give advice on nutrition or, try to help people better themselves and, help all of us get a little bit healthier. It's pushing us to do more things and hopefully it's helping some folks out there. But that's the goal here.
Yeah.
So, cool.
And it helps to
go for it.
And it helps too, just when you're both on the same page and your family, when both spouses, you guys, it matters to both of you what you're eating, what your kids are eating, and things like that. And so I think that's another thing I've loved about Train to Hunt and what Jesse has been inspired from your family by, and just things like that, is that's really helped our family, because it's hard when there's one parent that wants to do things one way and the other that doesn't when you're raising up kids. And so it's just really cool to. Jesse's just kind of blindsided me and surprised me in some ways where I'm like, oh, I need to get my act back together too. So. It's been really helpful.
It is. It's awesome when, both of both the parents or the couple can kind of push each other. And, I've learned so much from my wife. She's pushed me into, being healthier, more fit, and she doesn't let me slack or eat junk. Like I probably would be if we had never met. Who knows where I'd be, but, and that's, again, it kind of that's how I look at Train to Hunt as well, is we all kind of lean on each other and learn from each other and keep pushing ourselves, and next year will be better than this year. So
and if I could plug the Train to Hunt site too, man, just go sign up for a Grand Slam membership, man. $149 and a year, and then
which is a smoking deal.
It is. I mean, you get an entry into a Train to Hunt challenge, which will run you $100 anyways. So, and then you get entered into all these drawings, and you get to read the blogs and all that stuff. So it's just a lot of really good information that Kenton puts out, and all the trainers that are involved and stuff. And man, it's just such a cool program that.
Yeah, and I think it's going to grow leaps and bounds this year with everything you guys have been doing and social media and getting the word out there, and kind of how the format has changed. I think it's going to bring a lot of new folks into it. And just from the folks I've been talking to, it sure seems like what you guys have done with these challenges and, dropping the weight and just making it more conducive to, everybody being able to come and compete. It's still hard. It's still really, really hard.
You're gonna know you've been somewhere.
Yeah. But you're gonna walk away feeling good and just tired and dragging, hopefully. But yeah, it's just an awesome thing, and we're getting close.
Yep,
we're getting real close.
May 6th in Nevada is the first event I'm running, and Oregon is June 3rd. And then I'm going to be running Pennsylvania as well. That's June 24th.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage people too. I know there's so many people that are listening that are thinking about competing, and it's really easy to talk yourself out of it or feel intimidated. But I just want to encourage those people just to come out and give it a try. It's such an encouraging community. I don't think anyone has done it and regretted it. And there's always people that are new to shooting, new to working out, that are competing. And so you're not going to be the only one. And so if you're just even thinking about it or just a little bit of a spark, just go for it and just come and let us cheer you on. And just be changed by Train to Hunt in the community and just join the family.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. And you had mentioned something before, like, something with Beth Carr. She's at these events. And one thing that as soon as you said that, I remembered at Nationals, she was there on the sidelines, encouraging. I got to watch Scott compete before I did, but we're in the same class, so we're competing against each other. But she's there, like pushing him, and encouraging. But when I was up doing my thing, she was doing the same thing with me. And we're competing. We're buddies, but we're competitors when we're doing that. And she was doing the same thing. She was pushing me and screaming in my ear right behind me to keep going and go harder and this and that.
Absolutely. And I think that's what's special about this too, is even people that I've been competing against, in my own category, they're cheering for you as well, or checking in on you on the course, or if they walk past you. And it's just a really unique community, just that you're rooting each other on. You just have that respect for one another. And it's pretty special.
Yeah, for sure. That's great, man. Well, again, guys, thanks for being on here. Thanks for sharing all your stories, for sharing everything, and again, inviting us into your home and doing this.
Yeah.
So,
thanks for coming, man.
Absolutely. All right. Well, that's it, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hey, folks. Thanks for listening to the Hunt Harvest Health podcast. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Visit our website at huntharvesthealth.com for more podcast stories and recipes. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Hunt Harvest Health. You can also message me at StHealthy Hunter, that's STH, and I will be more than happy to answer any questions you might have. Also tag your photos Hunt Harvest Health or Get Stealthy, as we enjoy seeing what you guys are doing as well.